Hello and welcome. So today's video is going to be about escapees. So I had someone ask me recently if I could do a video on this, and I was like, yeah, sure. I don't actually have that much experience with my rats escaping their cages, to be honest. Oh, here comes my cat. Oh, I get her. Oh, she's speeding up. Where are you meowing? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on. And here she is. My baby. She always like rushes down the hall. She's like, I can't believe you started without me. I'm coming. I'm coming. Yeah, she go, baby. Anyway, so I don't actually have that much experience with escapees, like true escapees. Like obviously I've had instances where rats fell or got scared and jumped out of the cage, but it's like they're not true escapees if I catch them immediately, in my opinion. Yeah, but we'll get into it. So one of the few instances of my rats like truly escaping was actually pretty early on in my rat keeping. It was a rat named Dresden, and this was, oh dear, I'm gonna say like 14 years ago at least. Probably like 14 and a half, maybe even 15 years ago. So like really early on in my rat keeping. And Dresden was this little mink girl that I had, and I had her in like a cheap cage, and one of the bars was broken, unbeknownst to me. And I came home, I was out with my friends, and I came home, and I sat at my desk, and I was just reading. And all the cats I had, at the time, I had like 5 cats. None of the cats I currently have, which is a fun fact, but all the cats I had at the time were like gathered around my desk chair and like focused on something. And this was in Arizona, and typically in Arizona when that happened, it was a lizard or a scorpion. So I looked under my desk fully expecting to see like a little lizard face, and instead I saw a teeny tiny little brown face poking out from around the corner. Because the desk I had at the time had 2 sets of drawers with space underneath them, and she was hiding in the space underneath them. And as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, a word I can't say. And I was just like, all right. And I booted all the cats out. We ended up moving my desk because she would not come out. And then she made a run for it after like 10-15 minutes of me trying to coax her out. And I knew, because I had only had Dresden at this point for like a few weeks, and I knew that if she bolted, I was not going to get her back. So I grabbed her, and she bit me right between the knuckles. It's the worst rat bite I've had. And again, this is like 15 years ago, and I can still very easily find the scar she left. It's like right here in between my knuckles, like perfectly in between. And yeah, that was my experience. That was my first experience with a true escapee. But yeah, I'm gonna go over a little bit what you can do if a rat escapes or is being stubborn coming back from free roam. Now, to a degree, there's not too much you can do because of how good rats are at hiding. I'll also say that again, I don't have a ton of experience, but you know, there are options. We'll go through options. Hi, Betty. Are you about to slide under the bed? No? Betty's not tall enough for me to do the tail wiggle, so if she walks in front of me, I don't know. I don't think you guys are going to see it. She's still like kitten sized. Okay, she's in the window now. Anyway, let's go over it. Now, one thing that is very beneficial is teaching your rat some kind of recall. So basically, it's like with dogs, if you let them run off, you need to be able to call them back to you and have them come back to you immediately. And with rats, you can also teach them some kind of recall. A lot of people just do a sound. Like, for example, when I am done free roaming, I'll click my tongue like, and they all, everyone just looked at me. Sorry, guys. And some of them come running up to me. Some of them don't, because that's just not necessarily I didn't train them on a recall, so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you can train them on a recall. So basically, you choose a sound to make, you make that sound. When they run up to you, you give them a treat, and then you take them wherever you need to go. And that's how you train them how to recall. What works much better for me and my rats is I actually taught them their names. So they are very, very good at learning their names. I've had rats learn their names in as little as 2 attempts. Which is much better than a lot of other animals. My cats, for example, these kittens that we got last year, it took them a long time to learn their names. And some of that might be because they're kittens, and, you know, cats can know their name and just choose to completely ignore you. So that's entirely possible. But with the rats, they learn very quickly, and it's the same as the recall. Basically, you say their name and hand them a treat, and they will learn it like that. I've had rats learn it without me even having to do that. You just say their name when you're interacting with them, and they learn that that's their name. So, like, one of the other, like, true escapees I've had was my rat Shriek. She was from my first set of rats. I had Boo, Shriek, and Psycho. And I remember I was in my living room at the time, and we had just gotten a puppy. Again, this was a long time ago. All the free range animals I talk about from like way back then are now past, but this puppy, she was like this big. Her name was Abby, and she was puny. So when I was trying to play with her, I'd sit in a recliner and I'd lean back and I'd just like play with her, you know? And she'd like jump on my face and give me kisses and like bounce around, but she was so tiny that I just did it on the recliner so that she didn't get overwhelmed. And I was playing with her, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a rat tail walk by, and I shot up. Like, I grabbed Abby, and I shot up, and I saw my rat Shriek walking by, and I said her name. I was like, Shriek! And she stopped, turned straight toward me, and came right to me. Which was great, because again, at this time, I had like 5 or 6 cats. So she was just wandering the house for who knows how long. Terrified me. Thankfully she came straight to me, and I do find that is the best way for me personally to teach my rats a recall. Another like accidental recall I have taught my rats, because again, I deliberately teach them their names for reasons like this, but I do accidentally train them in other ways. So like when I am free roaming them and I want to give them attention or play with them, I will do this with my hand on the desk to get their attention, and they come over and we interact and we play. And that has actually been weirdly beneficial with my rats. So I'll talk about 2 instances that were a lot more recent. So Joja, my rat Joja, before she passed away, her sister Junimo had a lot of problems with her teeth, and I had to take her into the vet to get her teeth trimmed every 3 weeks. And I would bring Jojo along because it was just the 2 of them, so it's just like, well, instead of having both of them be alone, I'll just bring both of them along. And I was getting them out of their cage to do this, and Jojo was sleeping very deeply in her basket. It was this cage, and it's a similar setup, and she was sleeping in the pink basket. And I reached in and I pet her, and I went to scoop her up, but she was sleeping very deeply, so like she started to wake up when I pet her. But then when I tried to scoop her up, that's when she actually woke up. It startled her because she's a prey animal and she had been asleep, so she didn't immediately recognize that it was me. So she leapt out of the cage in fear and darted right under my bed. And for reference, my bed is about like this far off the floor, so I cannot go under there to get her. And she started walking that way. And I called to her, and she kind of stopped, and then I did this. And she came right to me, because the second she heard that sound, she's like, oh, that's Mama. And she came right to me, and I was able to pick her up and put her in the carrier. The whole thing lasted maybe 3 minutes. So that was excellent. And then the same thing happened with Agatha. It was during cage cleaning. I used to let them free roam when I was cage cleaning. I have since stopped because I had a couple of rats that had neurological issues and just wasn't safe. So now I put them in a small cage. But I used to free roam them while I was cage cleaning. And while I was doing that, Agatha fell off the desk and she started running around, and I couldn't get her to come to me by my voice because she was just a little startled. She was scared. But when I did this, she immediately was just like, oh, okay, that's Mom. I'm going to go to her. She came right to me, and I picked her up and I put her back into the free roam area. And the whole thing lasted maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So that's another way that you could teach your rats a recall. If you haven't taught your rats a recall, there are a couple things I would suggest. One of them is having a designated free roam area with something that they feel very comfortable with. So like with me, I free roam in a certain corner of my room, and they're very familiar with that area. Recently, when I was giving someone meds, I opened the door and I didn't notice that Lois was holding onto the bars, and I just flung her right out of the cage. And she darted under my bed because it's looks like a nice dark safe space. She darted right under my bed, And I called to her and she started coming to my voice, but when she got close to me, she realized that her free roam setup was only like a foot away. And she finds that setup like comforting. It's safe to them. That's a safe space. So she darted right into the towels that I have, and I was able to grab her from there because being in that area helped her calm down enough that she was okay with me grabbing her. And that happens pretty often. It's like sometimes the rats fall off the desk for one reason or another, and they just go right into the towels because they know that that's safe and it's close to their free roam area. So if you have like, if you free roam in your room, I would suggest, like, I have my destroyed hammocks shelf, which is just where I put all the hammocks that can't be hung up anymore. If you have like a bucket or a bin or something where you can put things like that where it's soft and cozy and they can burrow in and feel safe, I would highly suggest that, so that if they do escape, they're likely to go there because it smells like them and they can just burrow in and feel safe, and it might help you find them. The same goes with having a designated free roam area. They're likely to go there if it smells like them. I would also suggest within the free roam area having some kind of box, some kind of mostly enclosed box, like a soda box where you only have one end open, or like an Amazon box, something like that, a carrier, even like a cat carrier, a small one. Because one time I was watching my friend Kendra's rats, and she had a rat named Rivia. And Rivia did not like going back for free roam. I think she just kind of got stressed when free roaming, and so I think it was too much space for her based on how she was acting when I found her. So she would just huddle up into like a nice dark corner where you couldn't reach her, and she'd be like, nope, I'm not coming out. You try to get me, I'm gonna bite you. And so when I was watching them and she did this, and Kendra warned me she might do this, there's a box in their free roam area that they had been hoarding treats in, and I picked up the box and I just put it in front of Rivia, and because it smelled like them and it felt comforting and there was food in there, she went right in, and I picked up the whole box, walked it over to the cage, and just put her in like that. So having like tricks like that, especially if you have a rat that you know is going to be difficult, that is a suggestion I would make. I would do the same thing. I have an issue sometimes with my baby rats not wanting to come out of the dig box until they bond with me, which is why sometimes they don't get the dig box for a couple of weeks. But sometimes they don't want to come out, and I would get a tube hammock and I would like put it in front of their little tunnel that they had made, and they'd crawl into the tube hammock. And then unfortunately, if that doesn't work, I do have to wait for them to poke their head out, and then I just collapse the tunnel behind them, which is mean but effective. Now, if you have a true escapee, you do not know where they are, you don't know where they're hiding, you don't know if they left the room, what have you, and it's been like a little bit and you still don't know where they've gone. A very often used method of tracking where they're going and where they are is putting flour down on the floor if you have hard floors. Like obviously if you have carpet, that's not going to help. But it does allow you to be able to track where they're going and try and get them back. And you can use some of the other methods I've already talked about. I left their treat thing open. It does help you get them back sometimes. Treats, speaking of, treats are a great way. If you have a good bond with your rat and they're not scared, they might come out to you just if you have food. But if you have trouble finding them and you have hard floors, you can put flour down to kind of try and see where they're going. Now, a last ditch effort a lot of people use is to get a humane trap. And I feel like sometimes people feel weird about this, like it's somehow cruel to the rat, but it is a humane trap. So it's basically the safest way to get your rat back if nothing else is working. You just put it out in the area you know they are, fill it with food, hope for the best. Again, rats are prey animals, and they're small, compact animals that can squeeze into very tight spaces, and they are very, very good at hiding. They are very, very good at just vanishing in plain sight. So sometimes you do have to do things like that. And it doesn't hurt the rat at all, and then you can get them back, you can put them back in their cage, you can let them decompress for a couple of days, and then you can go back to resuming your normal routine. Now, the biggest benefits I have with my rats is that I do try very hard to form a trusting relationship with them. And because I try to make myself a safe space, they do often, if they fall off the desk or if they fall out of the cage, what have you, I do have secure cages. That is a big thing to keep in mind, is you need secure cages. Like, for example, the Critter Nation is a very secure cage, but the bottom grate in the storage unit has 1-inch bar spacing, and the grate that goes underneath this section here, like here, has half-inch bar spacing, but they are interchangeable. So just keep in mind to, if you have a critter nation or you're about to get a critter nation, pay very close attention so that the 1-inch bar spacing goes on the very bottom and the half-inch bar spacing goes underneath the actual living part of the cage. Keep that in mind. But anyway, back to what I was saying before. Because I do try very hard to be a safe space for my rats, if there is an instance where they fall out of the cage or fall off the desk or what have you, they usually do just run right back to me if I call them or if I do that motion on the floor. And that is like an invaluable part of my rat ownership, is I do spend a lot of time with them. I do try to build trusting relationships with them. And unfortunately, the only way to do that is to put the time and effort in. And I do feel like sometimes people get frustrated when their rats are not immediately affectionate or don't want to immediately bond with them or trust them. Unfortunately, you just have to put the time in. Like, while, yes, you can have a rat that you barely interact with and they can be perfectly happy living in their cage and they don't need free roam, they don't need attention, they have their food, their companions, they have enrichment, they have everything they need in their cage. It is going to make certain parts of rat ownership more difficult. So you do need to spend time with them. You do need to try and give them attention. You do need to talk to them. You do need to get them used to you and for them to learn to trust you. And some rats this will be very, very difficult with. Some rats it will be super duper easy with. And it just kind of depends on the rat and what you can and cannot get out of them. But spending time with your rats is the best way. Making them love you and trust you is the best way to help escapees get back in their cage. I knew this kid in high school. So for those of you who don't know, my first rats I got when I was in high school. And I knew this kid in high school, and he had a rat, and that rat escaped his cage. And he woke up the morning after the rat escaped his cage, and the rat was curled up next to him asleep because the rat loved him and wanted to be with him. So it's like, well, not all rats are going to be like that. Some rats are going to take this opportunity to explore absolutely everything. That rat was safe because he had a trusting relationship with his owner. So yes, put the time in, try to get to know your rats, try to get them to trust you. And if they escape, hopefully some of these methods can help you. Because again, sometimes the only thing you can do is wait them out and hope that they decide to show up and that you can grab them. Because they are prey animals. And they are wily. They are wily, wily animals. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what to do. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!